National insider for NFL Network, NFL.com, just back from the NFL spring meetings in Minneapolis. Ian Rapoport, kind enough to join us. Ian, I know the NFL wants to do away with the kickoff, but is there any other option to sort of keep it in the game?
I don't know that the NFL wants to do away with the kickoff. I mean, I think what they're doing is to try to make it a little bit safer, but to make sure that it stays in the game. I mean, I would say yesterday, for the first time, I did hear at least the possibility from Commissioner Roger Goodell, from Jeff Miller, who's essentially head of health and safety at the NFL, the possibility of moving on without it, but I think they would like to keep it. You know, one thing that's happened is because kickers have become very good, you've had more returns in the last 2 years than you've had in quite a while. Therefore, you've seen more concussions. So the percentages have increased in both. So I think they'd like to do is find a sweet spot where maybe there's a little bit fewer returns, fewer concussions, but the play could stay because it can be really exciting at its best.
Yeah, and I guess if you said that you were going to take away the onside kick and you just opened a game or the potential for an onside kick, then would we have kickoffs? Would the NFL ever consider starting a football game at the 25-yard line?
Looking into the future, it's tough to know because there's plenty of things that happen now in the NFL where I'm like, well, I didn't see this adjustment, didn't see the points explosion, the sort of emphasis on defensive penalties. I mean, there's a lot of things that the way the NFL has shaped the game that I didn't quite foresee. I would be surprised if we live in a post-kickoff world. And I don't think it's just because of the onside kick. Those are rare. I think it's just because that's the way we've started the game for 100 years, and it can be really exciting. I just think they want it to be a little bit safer. And the point from, these league officials who spoke yesterday is when the data points to more concussions, they have to take that part seriously and figure it out.
What do you do with punts?
I don't believe that the spike in numbers has been the same for punts as it's been for kickoffs. I think punts have generally been okay. It's the fact that, kickers have been basically getting better at forcing you to return it. So how does the league adjust from there?
The Thursday night flex certainly got a lot of headlines here. Is this, if all else fails, then we're going to flex a game? Or do you see, or how often do you see a flex happen?
No, I would say your first sort of assumption was right. It was if all else fails, if we have no other choice, then let's flex a game. And I think, the way it was explained yesterday was there's a high bar or whenever it was, 2 days ago, there's a high bar for flexing a Sunday night game. There's a higher bar for flexing a Monday night game. And there's an even higher bar for flexing a Thursday night game. So like, if you said to me right now, what is your guess? Do we flex a Thursday night game this year? I would say my guess is probably not. And then it would go on to the next year, and the 1 year sort of trial would still be in place. And, we'd sort of move from there. But my guess, looking at the schedule, looking at the teams, not knowing anything about quarterback injuries, because, if it's a couple third quarterbacks out there, you probably do flex it. But my guess is they had this whole thing, they did this rule, and they probably don't break the glass and flex it.
The third quarterback option, when does that come into play? Is that just playoffs that will have the third quarterback option?
Yeah, I mean, that's my guess is, for the regular season, I mean, look, teams do have emergency quarterbacks, and it's sort of fun. And, it's like when you have a position player pitching in baseball, it's like, it's kind of fun, but you really don't want that to be in a game that means anything, right? Same sort of thing. So, my guess is it's something that isn't a thing and we don't hear about because it can't be a promotion. It has to, it can't be an elevation. It has to be a true promotion. It has to be a signed contract. It has to be a guy on the 53-man roster. My guess is you don't get that until week 16, 17, 18, and then the playoffs when a quarterback injury and then another one can be actually catastrophic.
Commander's sale still on schedule?
Yeah. So this was kind of interesting, the shape that this took. So there was all this consternation, debate, and discussion. Was Dan Snyder going to sell? And then he finds a buyer. And then they have an agreement in principle. And then they have a signed agreement, exclusive agreement with Josh Harris to buy the team and his partners to buy the team. And it's basically done. And then I get to Minnesota And people are asking me, like, is the sale going to go through? You know, the league has some issues. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, they're definitely working through some things. It's a much more sprawling group than I think the league is used to. There's maybe a little more debt than the league would like, but no one has suggested to me at all ever that it's not going through. I mean, this thing is going to happen. So it was nice. So you get to all that. And then Roger Goodell takes the podium yesterday, midway through the day, and says, yes, he anticipates a sale going through. And to me, it was kind of like, okay, like went through this whole thing, this big journey. The deal isn't maybe perfect. You can still massage. You can still add more money, add more cash, essentially, if that's what the league does want. But like Josh Harris is expected to be the new owner of the Commanders. And, you know, I do believe that is absolutely happening.
Is the NFL done with Daniel Snyder?
Will be. I mean, if you're asking me, do I think he would be able to get another team? I would very confidently say probably not.
Well, no, the investigation, does that, do they still press on with the investigation?
Yeah. You know, the Mary Jo White investigation is ongoing. All of the legal things, you know, I haven't really sensed any alteration. Like, it's not like, okay, he's no longer an owner here, so like pack your stuff up and let's go. Like, I didn't get that sense. I think it's going to be done to completion. And like, there are some reasons for that. One, like if Dan Snyder did, you know, have the workplace where it seems, if there were some financial improprieties, you know, if something was wrong, you'd like to know it was wrong. You'd like the people that were wrong about it to be held responsible. Perhaps there could be legal things that stem from this, civil or legal. You'd certainly like to find that out if that is true. You just want to find out, like, what was Dan Snyder doing? And I do think those will go to completion, and then we'll sort of see, you know, what becomes of it after that.
We were talking about this prior to the show. There used to be quarterback competitions, like true competitions with teams.
Yeah.
Those are long gone. Is there a quarterback competition and with any team right now that is truly a competition? There
is one, Tampa. I think that's a real competition. You know, I mean, Baker Mayfield is in position. You have Kyle Trask there. I think that's going to be a real quarterback battle. I think the problem is, one thing these teams have learned as they become smarter is, if you're having a quarterback battle, that's not great. It's really not. Like, I cannot remember a quarterback battle where it ended and the guy led the team to the playoffs or something, right? Like, it's usually what you get is a quarterback battle from a guy maybe drafted like in the third round, a rookie in the third, or like, you know, it's a quarterback battle and then the first rounder doesn't start, but like, you know, okay, week 4 or 5, he's probably going to start eventually. Like, that's more what you get. Because if you're signing two guys to just come in and compete and one of them is going to be your starter, that means either you don't have any space at all or money at all, or you just didn't do a great job evaluating. I think for the Bucs, this is more of a sort of retooling, collect yourself, take a deep breath, get some financial things under order year. So a quarterback battle is okay for them, but I think for most teams, probably not.
Ian, good to talk to you again. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Ian Rapoport, national insider for NFL Network, NFL.com, just back from the spring meeting in Minneapolis. Yeah, I go back to, you'd have a quarterback controversy like the Cowboys, Roger Staubach and Craig Morton. And then you had interchangeable quarterbacks. Crazy to think about that. But you had two really high-end quarterbacks competing with each other. I think Danny White, was he involved in quarterback controversy as well?
Like Gary Hogaboom and Danny White,
Gary
right?
Hogaboom.
And there was, people took sides.
Yes, yeah.